Hello, guys. You're welcome to Drinks and Mics. Ugo Dre is still not here back. He's still in Miami, and my sources have now confirmed it, even though he's denying it now actively. I know he's in Miami, and we're going to be having a great show today. So, we apologize for last week. Arnold had to travel, so we couldn't do the show.
I wish. Well, we took a break, right?
We took a break, yeah. We needed it. Too many things. Yeah. But we're back. And we promise this is going to be a great show. So my name is Tunji Andrews, and I'm going to be holding con today. So I'll try to take it as long as possible. And Otumba Arnold Dublin Green. He's here. He's been having meetings all across, by the way, he's having meetings. And in case you don't know, there's some market investor related activity happening around this.
Yeah, it's the AVCA, the African Venture Capital Association.
Yeah, so a lot of people with money are around right now. So Arnold is whining and dining and
begging for money.
Yeah.
People like our guests here who I'm sure you introduce now.
Begging for money. And speaking of money, our guest has plenty money.
I wish.
Plenty money. And we have with us Okpe Aiku. Yes. Welcome to the show. Okpe, what do you do?
My name is Okpe Aiku.
Yes.
As you said, I'm a finance professional. And I've been around for 2 decades. So I've seen busts, I've seen booms, and I've seen the things in between.
So by the way, there's something called buy side and sell side in the markets.
Yes. So I'm going there. So I started my career as a research analyst in an investment bank. And then, you guys were talking about sell side, and I'm like, you know what, this is not for me. So I moved to the buy side, and I've been doing that in the last 14 years. So I work with Total Energy's closed pension fund. And I've had the privilege of managing both traditional and non-traditional asset classes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So we're gonna be having a lot of that experience roll into the conversations today. We have a lot of conversations. Because I'm holding con, we must talk about Trump.
Your favorite guy.
But yeah, so we're gonna start from Canada, by the way, which is the 51st state. To all the Canadian viewers, I apologize for that because I know that is very offensive, which kind of fell into the election conversations.
Absolutely.
So let me just quickly read this. So Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said his country would never yield to the United States as he declared victory in federal elections early Tuesday following a campaign overshadowed by relentless provocations and steep trade tariffs imposed by the U.S. President Donald Trump. This was one election about a country that was entirely focused on the president of another country.
True.
Entirely focused. So the conversations from the beginning, in fact, the person who the main loser, PP, had taken prominence because he was pretty much similar to Trump.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And that was good when Trump had not yet entered office.
Yeah.
Once Trump entered office and started doing all the it now became we don't want
this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you see that play out? Especially because the fears for a lot of recent Canadians, are people who are now Canadian, where thinking this is a shift from traditional policies. What would happen? How would this go? Trump was always anti-immigration and all those kind of things. But it's settled now. How do you think that played out as a whole?
I think Trump he delivered the victory to Makani, honestly, because for PP he was just like Trump, so he was preaching Trump's ideology, all of that. But, the Canadians didn't want that. They didn't. I think they had something that questioned their sovereignty.
Yeah.
And I think that was the biggest thing for them. And then, it kind of, and then this whole tariff, and because of his own background in finance and all of that, I think that just kind of played well for him, and then he has a victory today.
McCartney was a central banker.
Yes,
but
ECB.
BOE. But do you
Is
think?
it BOE? Okay.
So, do you think it was the anti-immigration stance, or the backlash of tariffs that puts people off PP? Because the anti-immigration rhetoric is something that, and the kind of, what's the word, anti-globalization that we've been seeing has been coming for quite a while, right? Not just Canada or the States, it's been across Europe. And I think a lot of guys really wanted this anti-immigration thing. Even in England now, it's quite heavy with conservatives versus Labour. So what do you think is anti-immigration that put people off, or do you think is people seeing Trump and seeing what an anti-globalization world looks like on the other countries?
Side. I think it's people that don't want Trump's ideology. Okay. So I think it's bigger than just immigration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I saw.
So sorry. Yeah. So do you think there's still the whole anti-immigration rhetoric kind of in the air
with McCartney?
Just across, right, in Canada? Do you think it's still there?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I may be wrong, but I don't think so.
Okay.
So the biggest thing I think I saw, especially with celebrations of McCartney's win, were people sending messages not to the rest of Canada, but to Donald Trump. Canada is not for sale. You cannot annex Canada. So it was more like, who is going to save us from this bully? That was the way I felt about it.
McCartney has that stance, right? I mean, he delivered the UK from recession.
It was the recession, correct?
QE. He was a central bank of the Bank of England, so he was central banker of the Bank of England. He was central bank governor, sorry. And QE, all the QEs that UK had to go through subprime, of the global subprime. So he was there. So I guess everyone and for someone to come after Mervyn King in the BOE with such a strong and just a strong determination to actually move England from red to black, in a sense. I think everyone felt like, okay, this guy can actually, he knows how to take the reins and
he has the credentials. What I worry, because he has, I mean, there's a lot cut out for him.
Exactly.
When you think about Canadians' dependency on America, it's huge. Yeah. So the question is,
Yeah. I mean, to a degree, it is the 51st state.
In fact, I was going to ask that question because, I remember, somebody on our group we call him HC. We were talking about one particular time when one government entered office. And I was like, you guys promised this. You can't do it, right? And he says, we campaign in poetry and govern in prose. Now the McCartney is in. The reality of all those Trump, you can't do this, Trump, you can't do that, now comes to bear.
Yeah.
How do you think he's going to manage it? Because it's one thing to say I am anti-Trump. Trump is a force that is not going anywhere.
Exactly.
Especially when it's your largest market. How do you think he's going to handle it?
Well, I think expectations have been built, right? Yes. And I think that's going to pressure him. Because it's one thing to say, oh yeah, you don't need these guys, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And there's another thing to wake up and smell the coffee that, look, we are heavily dependent on these guys.
Yeah. But do you think Trump calms down though?
I think he would.
You think Trump calms down?
I think he would. So ultimately, they probably would have to sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Again, there's ego at play, but I think, by the time he looks at the numbers and realizes that, look, the stacks are against him, he would have to he would have to have a conversation.
So the thought that came to my mind, as children, Arnold just tells me that, Okwe said something about me. And then I'm like, we're going to have a fight, Okwe. They were going there. And then as we're going, I now remember that, Okwe is bigger than me. But now because I've said I was fight Okwe when we
you have to now, you said you're going to.
I feel that way with McCartney because it's not just economic know-how. As a central banker, it is one thing for you to be able to understand how economies work. This is your biggest market.
Absolutely.
Calling your bluff at this particular time.
Yeah. I mean, let's see how it plays out. For me, politicians and markets and economics is a weird thing, especially with Trump coming in now. I think everything is really intertwined, and we're seeing how intertwined things are. So it's always hard to, like you said, you can't. Mark Carney has said, he's going to do this, 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 and this. But then when you actually when you see the numbers,
yeah,
then
that's
it's different.
It's
Wake up
different.
call.
Yeah.
So in the context of immigration, I don't know if it's just me, but I kind of felt that towards the end of last year, or maybe most of last year, Canada had started to soften a little on its aggressive immigration laws, as in, there was a time when they were, getting a lot of people into Canada, but it kind of felt like last year it was a bit like, I think we have enough, or do we want a different kind? You know? Do you feel this would persist with him, the new president? Because he has to continue to pander to his base.
Sure.
His base is keep bringing people in. We are not traditional Canadians, we still have family who would love to become Canadians. Yep. That's his base. And this is his first tenure. So he probably will want to run again, So he will have to think about pleasing that base.
Yeah. I think he would continue with the pro-immigration policies, maybe with a little twist. And like you said, towards the end of the year, there were some caps. Yeah. And the reason for that was because, housing prices were coming under pressure, etc. So perhaps they would have caps, but also, and we've seen I have heard of a number of, for the rural areas, there are different plans and programs to push more people into the rural areas versus, the cities and stuff. Yeah. So I think it would continue, maybe with a twist. With a bit of caps in probably major cities, and then, try to move people more into the rural areas, maybe.
That is good news for Nigerians who want to become Canadians. I have quite a few of them who are now. One of them calls himself a retired Nigerian.
Oh, wow. So, okay.
I'm looking forward to see more of our people go there. But
you're looking forward.
I'm looking forward. Man. I always love, so I have quite a growing family of friends who have moved to Canada. So it's always
it saddens me, man.
Them.
It saddens me. I mean, I know that this isn't part of the conversation, but it saddens me that we're losing.
Are we
drain?
Yeah, I mean, and now if somebody gets the Canadian visa or work permit, it's congratulations.
Absolutely.
It's sad. I know this is not what we plan to talk about, but it saddens me, man. And so there's secretly, I'm not sure. I'm probably going to get beaten for it, but secretly, there's a part of me that loves the anti-immigration stuff screaming around the world. So I feel like everybody should come home
and then fix it.
How much of a hypocrite I am right now. But
I've always
I don't know, man. It saddens me, man. I know we're voting with our feet.
I'm always pro people going.
But come back.
No, I don't think
they will come back. I think
so. They're always connected. They're always connected, aren't they? They're always connected somehow.
But think of the human capital they were losing, though. Right?
It's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge.
It's huge.
And it feels like I sometimes I actually wonder if I can plot this, but it feels like things in Nigeria get worse and people are moving, and I wonder what the correlation is and what starts first, chicken or the egg. Is it that the more human capital we lose, the worse things get, or is it that the people that are leaving, how much of our growth and everything else is affected by people leaving? And I haven't done the work, and I've thought about doing it, but as time goes on, I'm thinking it's something that somebody has to do to see whether we're losing talents, we're losing people, and it's making the country actually worse.
I think the easiest place to do that graph would be the banking industry, not just core bankers, but the tech part of banking.
They have felt the brunt.
Because we did move very fast from 2010 to about 2017 in terms of banking innovation. It looks like we've been stuck since 2017, 18. It's like we've been recycling the same innovation. People come out with things that they've had like 7 years. I'm like, wow, we now have. And I'm like, wait, did you have that product before?
It has a different name now.
But that 2012, 2011, 2013, 14, there was fast innovation.
So do you think there's that cause and effect now? Do you think that the effect of people leaving is causing Nigeria to not grow or things to get worse? Do you think is that?
So I've always thought about it this way. they leave, it opens opportunity for others to learn and take over. The ideal would be that they go gather relevant experience, IP, and bring the IP back.
But the reality?
The reality is they don't do that. I think what we need to do is, if we agree that it is going to continue to happen, we need to be deliberate about putting an IP clause into it. So go, please. We will support you, but bring something
You
back.
have to be back.
Yeah, I think there's a country. I think Botswana. Is it Botswana? It's a country that does that.
That does that.
The Asian Tigers did it.
But interestingly, far back in, I think it's 2007, when the economy started to boom, we had a huge wave of people coming back. So, we had a huge wave of people coming back. Oh, well. They're quite fluid. So as the economy got bad again. So if we can have a sustained, growth in the economy, perhaps they will come back. They miss Nigeria, by the way.
They always miss Nigeria.
But in saying that, do you think that then people coming back sustains the growth?
Oh,
right?
yes.
Because
I think
if
so.
it's the other way around, then it's also the other way around.
So think about banking, for instance.
Yeah.
There is I mean, if you check net, our banking innovation. So for instance, like the cards we use in Nigeria, the chip and pin.
Yeah.
It was way ahead of its time. There were several Western countries that had not been using chip and pin when we were using chip and pin.
Okay.
And a lot of things that we had, started to work with that were ahead of. There's a particular banking app that you can physically see. As in the feel, you can see people traveling from behind the app. As in, if you get what I mean, as in the functionality of the app in 2016 compared to 2024, 23.
Yeah.
You're like, what happened to this app? This app used to be great. This used to be awesome. But you can feel the brain drain behind it. It kind of just, became, and right now it's still struggling. Things are not working on the app. And this was something that was huge in 2016. So I yes, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Maybe the one that I see clearly is banking, but I guess it shows.
I think it's every employer's problem. Yeah. They say it all the time.
Exactly.
That look, this Japa, as they call it, it's a big deal. It's affecting absolutely.
It's affecting the economy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure people will know the app I'm talking about, but I will not call it. Anyway, so speaking, Donald Trump during the week.
Your fave.
Is it your fave or your fave?
No.
Came out.
I'm apolitical. I'm apolitical.
Came out to celebrate his first 100 days in office. It said it was the most fantastic 100 days in office in history.
Of course.
Unfortunately, all the media houses started fact checking everything he said, and they said, "No, this is not true." So, few things he spoke about. He said gas prices were down. BBC says it's not true.
Fact checking. Drink some nice fact check.
However, they did agree that illegal immigration was down.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
Sure.
It's scary.
Illegal immigration was down, and the immigration policies were working.
Yeah,
so amongst everything else, the one thing that they could point to was that the anti-immigration was working. The anti-immigration policies were working. However, on the other side, I saw a poll saying only about 38% of Americans are, depending on who they polled. Though,
yeah, exactly.
The poll I saw said only about 38. His approval ratings are just about 38%. Do you think it's too early?
Trump. So there's been a few conversations around this, right? And when you hear the pro-Trumps versus those against Trump, it's two different conversations, right? The first thing is, short-term pain, long-term gain, right? And this guy is doing the things for the right reasons, right? He wants people to come back. He feels like America has been taken advantage of for a while, and then they don't want to play the big brother anymore. They want to take care of themselves, right? So when you look at it from that perspective,
right?
You guys are pro-Trump.
I am not pro-Trump. I tell you, I'm not pro-Trump. But anyways, when you look at it from that perspective, It kind of makes sense.
Okay.
Well, question is at what cost?
Yeah.
Right? The way he has rattled,
US
the global market
economy.
in general.
Yeah.
It's unprecedented in modern times.
Of course, yeah.
And I think that's where the issue is like, was there a better way to do this thing?
Yeah.
Right? Versus, you know what, I'm going to do this across board. And then everybody comes to me and then let's have arrangements, right? And then, disregarding some things like, World Trade Organizations, and you're like, oh, these rules perhaps should not apply to me.
Yeah.
I mean, these are things that have been governing them for a while, right? So the question is, does it make sense to go this route, even if it's for the right reasons? And that is where I worry a bit, because the impact of whatever we're trying to do or whatever he's trying to do might actually be way bigger and counterproductive, if you like,
to everybody else.
Yes.
But Arnold, she said something about Donald Trump disregarding World Trade Organization. But over the week, or was it last week, I was listening to our very own Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, being asked about the treaties that Donald Trump had a problem with.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she did not disagree that Trump was right. But what she was saying was, at the time those treaties were created, China was in part
Yeah.
of the alliance.
Yeah.
So China came in later, but China now had a different power that when they were creating these treaties, they were not alive to those threats.
Yeah.
But China came with the threats embedded in features.
Right.
Yeah.
And now so she's saying she agrees it needs to be renegotiated, but she just doesn't agree that they should do it this way.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you, I'll just say one thing with that. If you if you ask any country in the World Trade, in WTO, or any, even European countries, everyone would admit that China is a problem, right? But it's just the tariff that is a taboo. But every single person admits China's a problem. Every single person is trying to figure out how to reduce the whatever Chinese products in the market to help boost their own local markets. So that's why, from Ngozi's perspective, you can see what she's trying to say. It's like Trump is right from that perspective, but it's always, how do you handle it? How do you handle it? And Trump has just come out to say, I'll use tariffs. And because of that tariff thing, he's sort of shooting everyone. But I think his aim is really at everybody's China. Problem, which is China. And that's what you find. So, but why does the world continue to pretend that? Because it's one thing to say, okay, we get the point, right? It's just how to attack
do it this way, and
let's address
but there's no
it this
other way
way
to do it. And that's the problem, right? No one is bringing any other way.
I think there are other ways. Maybe they just need to think through it. I don't know.
Nobody has anybody. The question is, prior to Trump, had there been any conversations with China about reducing how China dumps on? So there was something I was reading, and I think this is context. China's local manufacturing. Local manufacturing was at an all-time high.
Yeah.
However, China's local consumption is at an all-time low.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're experiencing a deflation at this particular time. The Chinese, the average Chinese person earns $1 and saves 40 cents. Right, so savings is very high. They are big savers, so they don't really spend domestically. So China must export if it must survive.
Absolutely.
So their whole agenda has been ship everything we make outwards, and they have been using subsidies to ensure that their local manufacturers have an edge against your country, who is probably capitalist and thinking about everything in capital terms. So if you are subsidizing in China and shipping things to Europe and America, and then the Europe and American companies can compete, what do Americans and Europeans do to fight such a threat?
It's tricky. But I think having conversations would help, rather than, just wake up one morning and just slash everybody. I'm like, yeah, this is it. I'm breaking free America from all these shackles. So that's where I have a problem, right? I feel like, conversations can be had. And I know they've tried to have it in previous administrations. So it's not new that, China, like you said, is a recurring itch. But again, when you look at the way China is structured as well, it's not easy to just go there and slam.
Very political.
Perhaps, I don't know, maybe restrictions of some sort. I don't know if you take out the subsidy as well, I don't know whether we can still, the developed markets can still compete. I don't know. Okay. Even if you take out the subsidy that China is giving its own people. Because labor is, predominantly very cheap. Very cheap. So I'm not sure. But I really think that, again, the way you do things, probably some restrictions around, what can be exported, perhaps, or, so issues around quality.
Restrictions on what they export?
No, well, I mean, it's not good. I think England does that, no? Where, it has to meet a certain standard for it to come into my...
But also, even if they remove the subsidies now, there's embedded infrastructure
that
enables scale in China.
Yeah, agreed.
I think it's one of those things that, and I think that you can, when you start to think of things deeply, you can see where Trump is coming from. Because you said something, you started off saying conversations should be had, and then you said conversations have been had. Right?
So that's why you're like, okay, a different method now.
Exactly. And we all understand, like I said earlier, that China is a problem for a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
The EV cars, whatever it is, it's a problem for local manufacturing for a lot of these European countries, as well as the US. And it's, okay, how can we tackle this? Trump comes up with an idea. All right, guys, I have an idea. I'll just tariff everything.
No, all right, guys. He just broadcasted like, yes, this is it. Deal with it, or come to me.
So
however, there's something about the Chinese system, and it's not just Chinese. It's pretty Asian, especially the Asian tigers. There's this thing they do, which is provide subsidies to their businesses that give them unique advantage in the market. I've always wondered why the Nigerian or African governments do not do that.
Don't they?
No, but you've been paying for subsidies, petrol subsidies for years in Nigeria.
They've done some in agriculture now.
There you go.
Cheap fertilizers and stuff. Somehow, I don't know how it gets missing in the value chain, but they have done some. There's some initiatives
fertilizers,
for agri.
No, but think about it.
But I think they try. Somehow. I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
But we try.
Anyway, segue into the US GDP numbers also came out this week. America's economy shrunk 0.3%.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
Well,
I was so excited.
No. See, listen, I wish you asked me about the Trump's 100 days. I'd have just said to you GDP numbers.
No, see.
So it's like, how do you feel about Trump's 100 days? Well, what does Jay-Z say? Men lie, women lie, numbers don't.
Numbers don't lie.
GDP numbers came out.
Yeah, GDP numbers.
The numbers came out. Arnold just sent it. It was like
0.3. I didn't put it.
There you go.
I didn't say anything.
This is your scorecard.
Like, what's that? And he's like, what's that? I just said 0.3.
Well, there's context to it now.
There's context.
Exactly.
I won't leave this place.
I mean, listen, I don't know what your context is, but I'm going to assume I know what your context is. I'm going to attack your context before your context comes in. I feel like you're going to say it's a distorted import number.
Distorted?
Right. Imports. So the idea that, from my understanding of the minus 0.3, and I take a nice pause, dramatic pause, is that a lot of it is huge trade deficit that just come from the import numbers. I think increased by about 41% annualized, right? So it's massively distorted. So the thought behind it is
coming from 1%. Let's just put that in context.
Come from 1%.
Okay.
So the thought behind it is, everyone hears tariffs, everyone panics, and everyone buys as much as they can.
Correct.
So hopefully it should normalize and smoothen out. But my point is, this shows you the effect of panic. And I'll stop there for a second. Not in the, just to that second,
stop for
not fundamental, but panic. Yes.
Is it panic or people are planning, right? You have...
Panic.
No, you have tariffs that are going to go up.
Yeah.
you have
you
money.
panic and then you buy
you
everything now.
stockpile.
No, panic
It's
is
stockpiling.
stockpile. You don't know. You don't know if there's anything that's going to happen. To
Exactly,
the value chain
because
for a
I don't
while.
want anything to disrupt my production.
You guys are saying words that are ringing like
No,
music.
but seriously.
Uncertainty. So uncertainty. Right?
Agreed.
Uncertainty.
Agreed.
Yeah. So it's like uncertainty can really affect fundamentals. That's what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely, uncertainty affects everything.
Yeah.
Not naturally, but I can't.
Yeah. Come.
So,
come.
guys, I'm not going to allow this 0.3 lounge because
No, I mean, listen, we can all agree that it should hopefully smoothen out,
yeah.
right? That it's a stockpiling. But what if it's not?
So it is
Because
now.
what?
It
Okay,
is.
because we still don't know the actual. Okay, I guess we don't know the actual effects of tariffs.
Yeah.
Not
I'm
yet.
not going to dig over myself. I'll let
Not
you just
yet.
put the context first before I come.
So there are two things that the statistics office said were reasons for the minus 0.3. The first is softer domestic consumption, which is obviously because people are worried about what's going on, so they're trying to hold on to cash. The second is imports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's reported as a surge in imports. It's not just an increase; it's a surge, like
yeah, it's normal.
unprecedented
Yeah.
increase in imports. And there's a simple context to it. GDP is a measure of final goods and services. Not so. If, for instance, this phone is manufactured in Nigeria. The camera is brought from, I don't know, Japan. The
China,
case
maybe.
is brought from UK. The idea is that all those imported parts are not calculated into GDP as additions. It is then this phone minus all those imports is what comes to GDP.
Gotcha.
So right now you have bought goods that you're going to sell over 6-8 months,
Yeah.
but it is being captured in 1 quarter.
Yes, of course.
So the goods are still there. They've just not been sold. But
Absolutely.
you have deducted all the imports from GDP numbers.
Yeah.
So if you were to strip the excess imports from GDP numbers, you would see that the US really did not contract. Now, if I was Donald Trump, I would be even be more bullish
This guy, I
right
can
now.
tell, is a statistician, right? The number's the number. It
number's
didn't
the
really
number.
happen.
Yeah.
But it happened.
No.
But there was something that cost the
there's a
numbers.
No,
No?
context.
but I agree. But I love statistics because it's garbage in, garbage out.
If it's just understanding the way it's
I agree.
calculated.
I actually agree
So
with
if
you,
I was Donald
yeah.
Trump, I'll be very bullish right now because really it is not that the economy shrank. It's that people spent a lot importing, and that has been deducted from.
So what do you think
GDP.
the Q2
So what is
looks
going
like?
So Q2 is going to obviously be stronger because now we
No,
have.
it's stronger. But do you think it's positive, or do you think it's still a
No,
contraction?
it's definitely
contraction?
positive. Now, the second part is I shouldn't be answering the question because I'm the guest, I'm the host. But, I have to. Everything
Hey,
else I
chime
will
in.
not answer again. Just this part.
This one.
For
Chime in,
context,
chime in.
for context, a few other GDP numbers also came out this
Yeah.
week.
Okay.
Germany was 0.2. France is 0.1. Spain is 0.4. The entire Eurozone is predicted to be 0.4. When you look at that in context and you see what happened with the US economy,
So it's generally a softer macro.
it's just a softer market.
Are you looking at me?
Yes.
I mean,
I want your comeback.
However,
thank
However,
you. There you go. She comes with it.
I think it's too early to call that we're going to have positive numbers. I think it will be important to see what, I think job numbers are coming out on Friday.
Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will be nice to
Friday
see what that looks like,
Yeah.
right? We've seen inflation numbers. It is not so bad,
Yeah.
right? So perhaps, maybe it's too early to call, but, as we go along, we will know whether it's
Yeah.
Team
And
Arnold
also,
or
and
Team
also we
Markets
also don't
reacted
know.
to this.
Yeah, massively. But also, just to go back, also we also don't know what Trump has in store for Q2. Right, we don't know, and I have this gut feeling. Obviously, only Trump knows. But I have this gut feeling that we don't stop seeing the Trump tantrums or whatever you want to call it, Trump puts, whatever it is, until midterms next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't know what he has in store. So let's see what he has in store. But yeah, the markets reacted. I mean, gold was
Everything
going
was
down,
literally
then
down.
Gold went up.
It went
a little
back
bit.
up?
Gold went
Okay.
up. Yeah. Then everything else is down because that's the markets, right? So USDT
Yeah.
comes out contracted, is it going to be a recession? We don't know, but naturally, nobody wants to go into anything risky and want to go into safe haven.
But to your point, it is still, this uncertainty. Like nobody really knows, what is the next thing that's going to happen. There's issue around policy consistency. What am I going to wake up and hear tomorrow?
Exactly.
Or what am I going to see on Twitter tomorrow?
100%.
So I think that's where we might have an issue with respect to global growth because people can't really plan, spend. When you have issues like that, when you have uncertainty overhanging.
But do you think the market is beginning to price in the fact that they now realize uncertainties? You need to price it in. Although Arnold have not started doing that, but we're waiting for them. But do you think the markets are beginning to price in the context of Donald Trump's fight as it's against China, as against the rest of the world? Because I think when they felt it was the entire world, it created a lot of panic.
Correct.
Now that everybody kind of realizes it's
about China.
So
I don't know, and I'll tell you why. And as market pricing, it's in yes, and I'll tell you why and how. Right. So for most of my career, US equities and US bonds have had an inversely correlated relationship. What that means is US equities goes down, bond prices goes up. Right? Because US equities is seen as risky, bond is seen as safe, risk-free. Right? Risk-free. So what you found this year, for most of this year, is ever since the Trump tariffs really got heavy, is US equities and US bonds have started to be priced the same.
Sure.
So what that means is the markets or the world has started to see US bonds as risky as US equities. And that's why I know it's been pricing it in. So in that sense, and I always make this joke that the US is now starting to be seen as an emerging market. Because, and I'll give an example, in Nigeria, does anybody say to you, be safe or buy Nigerian bonds?
Yeah.
No one says that. Because Nigerian bonds are seen as risky as Nigerian equities. So now in that, and Nigeria is an emerging market, Turkey the same thing. No one says to you, be safe, buy Turkish bonds.
It's usually US treasuries.
Exactly. So now what people are saying is be safe, don't buy anything US.
Yeah.
So that, in that sense, the market is starting to price US assets as Trump, as risky.
So are you saying that it's no longer a risk-free rate? So perhaps we should have like a political risk premium on it 100%.
As well. I think that I think US being seen as a safe haven is gone. I think the risk-free is cash and gold. Right. And then I always go back to this, my gold trade that I've been going.
What currency?
Cash dollars. I guess cash dollars to a degree. Maybe cash dollars to a degrgy. So maybe
like where else can you go really?
Yeah, where else can you go, right? So, but although the dollar's lost maybe 8% this year, which is I don't want to use the word scary, but it's also a sign of what should we hold.
Confidence,
and I think that's why you're seeing gold finally outperform US equities, right? It hasn't been happening in a while. So in my view, really, I like to think, and I'll say with my full chest, the only safe haven really is gold.
Right.
Because of this. So you're seeing gold is up 30% this year, which is huge.
Yeah.
Right. Gold touched $3,500 a ton. Right. Last week. I think it went back down to about 3,300. But I still think that gold is our safe haven. And if you start to think of it as US bonds are no longer a safe haven and gold is the only safe haven, then gold, in my view, is under-owned. That means not a lot of people have enough gold. That means gold goes up.
Yeah.
In this perspective. So gold has more upside. 4,000, 5,000, 8,000. Why not?
Okay. But doesn't that worry you a bit when it comes to general market pricing? Typically the equation is usually, your risk-free rate, i.e. US treasuries plus whatever premium.
Yeah.
Now there is no risk-free rate in a sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's exciting for me, man.
You think so?
It's worrying and it's exciting. But it's something that I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago that I'm, my dream portfolio is a short position in US treasuries. My dream position is also a short position in US stocks. But my only worry though with taking these sort of short positions is that you always know, and we've learned this from subprime, that the US government will always bail out US companies, right? And the capital markets is important to the US, and if you look at the amount of 80% of companies fundraised, 80% of US companies fundraise through the US capital markets compared to 20-30% of European companies fundraise through the capital markets. The other 80% they get from banks. So the US capital markets is really important to the US government. So you have to, so they will not to a degree allow bad things to happen. But it's still scary.
It is.
that the world is not seeing the US capital markets or the US Treasury as safe haven. It's a new, I think it's a new era, it's a new market that we're going into.
I just think the world has gotten lazy, you know.
In what way?
Also.
Because traditionally we have all seen US treasuries as the safe haven where you go to when everywhere is going to bits. But in that period, we never asked ourselves, is there an alternative? Or why are we even going here?
Yeah.
You know, what if this entire country just blows up or something?
Yeah. I mean, you're right. Yeah.
So this is giving us an opportunity as a world
to start thinking.
So
but everyone's going to pile into gold. But just to sort of give everybody a bit of a chance, right? So I mean, normally, right, is you buy from US, you have dollars, you buy bonds, you buy treasuries, just park your dollars. So it's lazy, but it's also like, I've got dollars. How do I keep this? I'll just buy some treasuries. Yeah. So it's that. Yeah. So it's a trade deficit thing.
Even that's even the conversation we've said about China. So what has always happened with the Chinese is that they take their goods into the US, sell it, and instead of taking dollars, taking it back to China and
just leave it there, leave it bonds.
You just buy
leave
bonds.
It
there. Buy bonds. Yeah.
So you just continue to pressure the country. Yeah. So moving on quickly, IMF cuts growth forecast for most countries in the wake of century high US tariffs, talking about global growth going to be down from 3.3 forecast to 2.8 in 2025. My first issue with IMF is, have they ever been right?
What was the forecast for Q1 US GDP?
1.4.
Plus or minus?
Plus. But nobody expected Trump to happen, right? So we can take it that way.
Maybe Trump is a black swan event. So.
Black swan.
But have they ever been right though? Because I've been watching IMF for maybe the greater part of the last 15 years. You know, they just give us this forecast and we all just kind of like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then we always outperform their forecast.
I know for a fact though, they've never been right about Nigeria.
Okay.
I don't know about, but when you look at most of the numbers in terms of global growth, even inflation and all of that, they've never been really right.
So what did they get wrong? So what do they get wrong? They always underperform.
So the absolute number, and the thing is, IMF predictions are always based on today's information.
Yeah.
So between now and when the middle of 2025 is still a few days, but that few days, anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
But to be fair, we don't give them enough data as well, right? So they just have to work with what they have.
Yeah. But that goes back to what I said about statistics, garbage in, garbage out.
Wow. I take a lot of
and I've never really, I'll be honest with you, even in my even in my work when I'm, trying to figure out a value on a macro perspective, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I should say this, but I rarely read IMF reports. I only do it because I'm trying to sell to an investor, or the IMF has said Nigeria will be this. But I'll be honest with you,
credibility.
Yeah, give it credibility. This was IMF, and IMF really does cover Ghana, or the IMF is supporting. But I'll be honest with you, I'm saying this and I should, but I don't know if I've never really read an IMF report cover to cover. And I think someone even sent me the latest one. I was like, okay, good. Because and I'll tell you why, right? And I was explaining this to someone earlier on. So I call myself a micro trader or a micro investor. So I always look at things from top down. Mm-hmm. So I've sat as a foreign portfolio investor to Africa, sitting in London, and you sit in London and you model these countries. You model the effects of the South African rand, Egyptian pound, Nigerian naira, whatever it is. Yeah. And when you live in the countries, it's very different. When you're sitting in London and you're modeling the Nigerian naira, you're looking at capital flows, you're looking at CBN interventions. But then when you sit in Nigeria, you hear about FAC allocation.
Like, what is that?
Huh?
And then open your model. I need to put that.
That doesn't work until you sit here.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and it's like, our markets are so fragmented that something as small as a FAC allocation is a big deal for the Naira.
Absolutely.
So some of these guys, I know they probably sit in Abuja, but I think they miss something out because when you sit here and you hear FAC, you have to now figure out, okay, what exactly is FAC? Where does it come from? What does it mean for next month? And I think that if you are not micro enough in your macro assumptions, you will miss out on these things.
Absolutely.
And that's why the IMF guys, I'm sorry, I feel like they're too macro in this stuff. And the guys in country, I don't know them. I like to think they think about FAC allocation. But when I read some of their reports, I don't see the macro things I see when I talk to Tunji.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Our markets are so fragmented. Whatever Tunji says matters.
Absolutely.
And this is why I don't read IMF reports, because you don't really know
what's going on there.
Yeah, so that's my view, but it's my view.
I was going to ask you, if you listen to the IMF, they basically, if you translate the economic meaning of what IMF has said, especially about African growth forecast and Nigerian growth forecast, it means, or at least it's saying there's turbulence in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
And that is there.
Well, so I think the justifications for that is very clear, right? They've talked about softer oil prices, and they feel like it might pressure the currency. And
has it? You see, those are the questions. It might.
It might.
Yeah.
If we have a sustained decline in oil prices, then definitely it's going to pressure our revenues. The second thing was around the common man. They talked about that as well, that we've taken a beating in 2024. How much more can we really take in 2025? Now, what I find interesting is that look at the corporates and how they have recovered somewhat, right? They're bouncing back.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, okay, where does that fit into all of this?
There is a real disconnect because the NGX does look like it is doing well.
Those companies are on fire.
I need to say something. There's one company I'm trying to buy.
Okay.
I'm trying to buy on the NGX. Understand this. This is annoying.
What company is this?
The company's share price is 68 Naira.
It can't be Lafarge.
I have bid 70 Naira. I have bid 75 Naira. I have bid 80 Naira.
What is 68?
It's almost as if they are
63. What's 68?
68.
Anyway, I'm not going to say the name. I have bid 75 Naira. I have bid 80 Naira. I've bid 90 Naira.
Lafarge is 80 something.
Nobody is selling to me. Nobody is selling. I'm begging. Now, it's almost as if I want to go to the floor.
How big is this company?
It
must be small.
Yeah. No, it's a big company.
It's a big company.
It's a big company. But the idea is not about the fact.
What sector is it in? No, I'm just curious.
I know you're not going to move on from here.
I'm there, thank you. I don't know what sector is it in.
My point is I realize that people know that the share price is undervalued.
Right.
So me bidding 80 Naira is like, I'm insulting them like, what it got.
And it is quoted on the NGX.
It's quoted on the NGX. I've been bid. I can show you the bid right now.
Yeah, sure.
I have been bidding for weeks. Everybody's just ignoring me.
It would be interesting to see. Maybe I can.
You never know. If I have it. Yeah. So, especially, she would definitely have it. I
mean, okay, but the context for me is I do, looking at the streets of Nigeria, looking at the prices of things in the market, I do start to realize that while the world is saying things are going to hell, you're seeing restaurants in the US putting surcharges on things like dairy. So there's a restaurant that was it CNN or BBC that said, for every egg meal, they put a certain price on the side to say, okay, there's the price for the egg, then there's this price on the side additional, Well, prices have kind of reduced in Nigeria.
Has it reduced or there's been substitution?
So I'm talking about the substituted. So we have left substitution. We have substituted since we have moved. We are on the substitution side. So I'm talking about so for instance, things like eggs, the prices have become stable for a little while, and naturally in Nigeria, once something becomes stable, because we have this crabs in a bucket mentality. Once things are stable, everybody tries to start undercutting the competition by reducing their own by 5 naira, 25 naira, just to be able to get more customers. And we started to see some prices go down, especially things like eggs, butter, things like that. I started to see it. And my general context is Nigeria doesn't feel like it is part, at least on the streets. I'm not talking about CBN. I'm not talking about the bond market. I'm talking about on the streets. It doesn't feel like we're in Donald Trump's universe.
Yet.
Okay, maybe that's it. Right? that's it. Maybe yet.
I don't know. I'm just saying. Maybe.
Yet is the context. Have you felt?
What does Donald Trump's universe? What is Donald Trump's universe supposed to feel like?
So, like I said, the restaurant, egg meals, with the normal price, then surcharge on the side. We're not seeing that here.
Aren't we? We're not seeing. I mean, we might not be seeing it.
Depending on where he goes to eat. I don't know where he goes to eat. So let's start with that.
I'm trying to understand. So are you saying the prices globally have increased because of those extra surcharges?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's I saw something. You're seeing it even in China. You're seeing if you want us to export stuff to you, it's plus this.
Yeah.
So you're seeing that.
But is there a lag effect for us?
That's what I think. I think there's
a
lag effect.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I've always thought about. Africa and African countries. There's always usually a lag effect to what happens in the world. Fundamental economics and also in the markets as well. So the West. Like I'll use the markets as an example because that's how I see the world through the lens of an investor. So you have if you're a global investor, you've made money in the US equities, and then and then you take that money you made in the US equities. So US equities goes up, good times. You take that money and then you buy Nigerian equities, right? US equities is going down. You get your margin calls. Whatever money you've lost in Nigerian equities, or whatever money you made in Nigerian equities, you start to sell there, and then you feed into. And so the way I see that capital move is the way I see economics move. Okay. So I think that,
we're not there yet.
We're not there. We will get dealt with from that perspective.
Yeah, but
we will get dealt with, but it's a lag. So to the common man, if Chinese exports are getting more expensive, is what you're saying, right?
Chinese exports would definitely not get expensive.
Will not get expensive.
Because if they lose out on the US market, they have to sell somewhere.
Exactly. So they can't afford.
This is not the time where you now start increasing your price.
Exactly. And that's why he devalued as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, just make it more attractive for people. And then there is some silver lining in, lower crude oil prices for the common man.
Okay.
I had a meeting this morning and some people were like, petrol, and I'm like,
But then when do we start to suffer that, right? So 50% of our budgeted revenue, 21, is oil.
Yeah. So that's the thing.
Right. So that's slightly over because budgeted revenue is 40, right? So 21 is oil. So oil is price times volume. Volume is down. Price is down.
We'll try and take volume up.
We'll try to take.
That's why we have local.
We're IMF now. We're IMF projections, but let's be actual, right?
So there's something IMF spoke about. IMF spoke about some of the risks.
Read the IMF report.
IMF spoke about the risks, talking about climate situations. Yes. That is a clear and present danger, and I think every Nigerian really, I've been saying this for years. Climate change is a huge part of our insecurity in Nigeria, but people do not get it, But yeah.
And then there's insecurity itself.
Insecurity itself, yeah.
So it's funny how, when, they had all this fancy presentation, security didn't feature anywhere.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
But they also spoke about oil prices and then currency shocks because, they're interwoven as a whole. So those shocks for me, the question I have is that I think 2 weeks ago or so, the CBN governor and the coordinating minister of the economy were with Ugodre. I know he's going to hate you. They were somewhere in the US having conversations about the Nigerian economy, and they were answering questions. And they were basically talking about their plans and all of those things. And those plans are fantastic, right? But money you don't have is money you can't do anything with, right?
Yeah.
How do you think they respond to everything that is going on right now? I know you don't like the naira, but you like.
So who the Minister of Finance?
The Minister of Finance and the CBN governor.
So how do we respond to everything going on around the world? So I mean, it's borrow more, right? That's all we can do.
But who has money to borrow? Who's going to give you?
We have to find. I mean, the Eurobond prices are going to be crazy right now because borrowing dollars is tough. So this is why I'm telling you that we're going to feel this thing. So especially on the economic side. So maybe I need to think through how then it filters through to the everyday man. But economic wise, right? Oil is down 63%. Our budget is 75, whatever it is. Oil is 60, 63, 65, $10 away. We can't figure out our oil production. The budget deficit gets wider. How do we feed that? We borrow more. That's all we know how to do because we can't tax more because where you're taxing from, right? You've already done your windfall tax to the banks. Who will give you money? We go to Okomu because now the Okomu and Presco oil guys are making excess money. Will you take from them? Maybe, I don't know. But you're trying to tax the guys you can tax. You squeeze those guys. But anyway, we borrow more. So we borrow more on the fiscal side to feed where we need to feed. So our debt servicing gets higher.
Yeah.
So we have to borrow more expensive. So would you go to the Eurobond capital markets to borrow more? But remember now that Treasury yields are crazy. So Treasuries are crazy. The Eurobonds are crazy. The 10-year Eurobond that was yielding maybe average 9% is at 11% today. Yeah. So you're now borrowing more expensive on the dollar side, right? So now you're paying more. So it's a 10-year, but you're kicking the can down the road. So it's not your problem now. But you're going to feel it. So you see how I say that, the world is suffering now. We might be okay now, but we're going to feel it coming down the road.
But the way you look at the economy, right?
Yes.
You sell side, long-term sell side. So long-term buy side.
Yes.
Very, very long-term buy side.
Yes.
So Arnold is very worried about the naira today and tomorrow.
Well, am I worried? I just think naira does what it does.
Yeah. but so I think one of the things we've mastered in the Nigerian economic system is how to be able to solve today's problem. Okay. What we've not done well is solve tomorrow's problem. Long-term problem.
100%.
We're very good at solving today's problem. We'll just go and borrow. Last, you'll
be okay. We'll be okay.
We'll be okay.
Yeah.
So, thinking long term, how would you solve today's problems?
Stuff. Because first things first, some of these things are outside my control.
Yeah.
You're a price taker. You're a price taker. Nothing you can do.
I have all these monetary policies, that has started yielding fruit until
this happened.
Trump threw a clog in my wheel indirectly. And then the question is, what can I do differently? I think the weakest link is on the fiscal side, but conversation for another day.
Yeah. No, let's have it today.
Because I feel like on the monetary policy side, they're doing a lot of things.
Yeah, they're trying.
Yes. On the fiscal side, I have my concerns, right? And then the other thing that keeps me up at night is inflation. Because I feel like there are structural issues that has not been addressed. And you mentioned some of them already. And I don't even see inflation moderating like that. Even when we rebase and do all of that, if we don't take care of the structural issues, it will still raise ugly head. So unfortunately, I don't want to be on Arnold's side, but I need to diversify my portfolio for sure, long term, because at the end of the day, I want real returns, right?
Exactly. But let me say, I'll tell you what my savers do, and I want to get your view on this really quick, as especially the capital markets, as an investor and as a Nigerian. So, my view, oil down, oil price down, blah, 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 Trump-nomics, blah, blah, affects us negatively. We then have to borrow more. So to borrow more, to attract capital, we have to increase our local borrowing, cost of borrowing.
Yeah.
But the MD of the DMO, I don't know, CEO of DMO, I'm not sure what you call her opposition.
DG of DMO.
DG of DMO.
Yeah.
Said that, so in 2015, when Buharinomics kicked in and we decided to put in capital controls, we stopped we made it harder for foreign investors to leave the country.
Yeah.
So what then happened is there's a investment bank called JP Morgan that has JP Morgan index.
Yes.
And our bonds were in the index. They decided to remove the Nigerian bond from the index because they wanted to discourage foreign investors from buying because they didn't want to be held liable if a foreign investor buys and then, so The DG of the DMO recently announced that they've been having talks with JP Morgan to include the local bonds.
Yeah, she did say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if this happens and you have this influx of FPI, right, and this happens, this should push our yields down. So I want to get your views on this. So my thinking is this pushes yield down, which makes borrowing cheaper for us.
So first off,
thank you.
I am very cautiously optimistic about this whole.
JP
It's.
Morgan.
I mean,
You don't think it's going to happen?
it's going to happen.
Because she said we fulfilled all the criteria. That was those that
Okay,
she
so
said that.
the question is, when they introduced the IRE window in 2018, didn't we fulfill all the criteria then? Why weren't we included?
In 20 what?
In 2018, remember there was the
But wasn't some
IRE
outstanding
window.
laws that we had
Was the
to
person that
backlog?
was there?
But there was the IRE window, right? And
I don't like
we had and we had a sustained period of FX stability.
Yeah.
So why didn't they add us back at that time?
So I think the
I don't know.
and that's why I'm cautiously optimistic.
I would
But
be
she,
too.
but
I would
but,
be
but
too.
she but it seems like 2025 versus 2018 is they are actively having this conversation.
And there's
So
there's
2018,
more
I'm not
confidence when you think about it. When you look at the economic team,
Exactly.
there's more confidence with the
Smart guys in
economic
the
team
CBN
exactly.
show
and
these
all of
guys
that. So
yeah.
it would be nice. But
Yeah.
again, I think the dynamics have changed a bit, right? Because at the end of the day, if there is actually a softening in global macroeconomic conditions, for sure,
It will still happen.
then even if they add us back, we might not get the benefit that we should have ordinarily
gotten.
gotten.
But we still might, and I'll tell you why, right? So, there are some funds that have to be invested in this index.
Because they're exposed to the
Because
index.
they're
Yes.
exposed to the
Yes.
index. So they actually don't have a choice. So they have to be the index tracker funds, right?
Right.
So we might not get the
full complement.
but there's still some guys that they don't have a choice but to.
I think it would impact really. I'm just not very.
We might get the crumbs under the table, but at least those crumbs are big money, as in honestly big
so it
money.
might help borrowing
it would
costs,
really
right?
help borrowing costs.
Yeah.
But the things I would like to see before that happens is a revision in S&P and Moody's ratings.
Okay.
If I see that, perhaps maybe we are ready for business. Because even if they've ticked all the boxes and you've not seen a rate revision.
Revision. I think we talked about.
There was one. Was it Fitch that?
It was S&P.
Was S&P
that took us from, was it BB to B or something? I can't remember.
No. We are on B. We should be on either B minus now.
Yeah, but we went up. We talked about it on a show.
Yeah.
I think it was the last show.
But Moody's is still CCC.
Yeah.
Ouch. Wow.
Moody's is still CCC. And they're always the first to.
So
That's when you hear it.
We should.
That's
Moody's, please help us, help our life.
So if I see some sort of
improvement
in our global ratings, then maybe that.
But we have done some good work, and I think we should,
on the monetary policy side.
Thank
you.
But again, at the end of the day, the investors are coming because of the monetary policy side. Really,
what can the fiscal guys do?
Discipline.
Right? What does that mean?
So that's why I said the story for another day. But
discipline, but also choose a hustle. It's easier to choose a hustle.
Oh, I know. It means pick one, right? So you either say taxes.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
It's clear. It's clear what he is. Tariffs.
Right.
He would die on that cross of tariffs.
Yeah.
You can come and say hospitals are suffering. He will reply with tariff.
Our tariff. The medical equipment.
So that's the problem.
My point is Nigeria doesn't have a hustle.
Because our problem is a plenty.
So what would be an ideal hustle, really?
It could be anything,
And borrowing is our hustle.
That's not fair.
There you go. That was Ghana's hustle, right? The Ghanaian government was just borrowing.
And we need to be careful about borrowing as well, right?
You have to be very careful because Ghana picked a hustle.
My core context is pick a hustle, double down on that hustle, properly double down on that hustle, infuse subsidies, become a major global leader in it, and we all benefit from it. It could be anything. It could be glasses. It could be wigs. It could be wristwatches.
Just do something and be good at it.
Be amazing at it, and it will really benefit the economy. The problem is that we are trying to tax an underperforming economy to be able to fund the government. It doesn't make sense. And anyways, it's a story for another day. So we still have a few stories to talk about before we go into our buy, sell, hold. So we've done Canada, we've done Oh my God. Okay, so corporate earnings, Lafarge, Seplat, and the banks.
To the experts.
Which of the corporate earnings results excites you? Have excited you in the last couple of weeks?
Lafarge for sure.
Yeah.
And I think I like the Nestle story as well.
Okay.
So first of all, I like the
what
fact
exactly
that,
about the Nestle story excites you? Because
last year you had a lot of consumer companies declaring losses, and most of the losses were around FX-related issues and all of that. And I remember, I think it was MTN that had a call that talked about how they want to make very, very deliberate plans to reduce their FX liabilities, right? And I think quite a number of consumer companies also replicated that. So it's good to see that now that they've released their Q1 result, there's been significant reduction in, FX losses. Some of them have even declared FX gain. I think, I think it was Lafarge, right, that had a 1.1 billion FX gain. Lafarge story is nice. I think it's across cement companies. What I find very interesting in the cement space is the fact that there was, exponential growth in revenues. Coming from increase in prices majorly and then increase in volumes, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, okay.
So who is buying the cement?
Exactly.
Some
arguments have been around, government has started, investing in, there's infrastructure, there's real estate and stuff, So I think that's what it is, but it's quite interesting to see how the numbers have changed compared to last year. And then interim dividend of 4 naira, they've not done anything, since what?
That was nice.
2021. I think it was 2021 they had the last interim dividend. So that was good.
So for me, Lafarge is a bond trade, right? And I'll tell you, and I don't know why everybody's not buying this stock. I don't know how I'm selling the stock, right?
Yeah.
But these guys have come out. So there's a huge, let me give you a full story. There's a huge exit of multinationals, right? So you were seeing this huge exit of Western businesses from the continent, not just Nigeria. We saw GSK, we saw Guinness, and we're seeing Holcim leaving Lafarge. And there's a big entry of Asian businesses, right? So Tolerant bought Guinness, Hoaxim, the Chinese guys bought Holcim. They're giving you the price they're buying this thing.
Yes.
The price is a significant premium.
Yes.
And this thing is trading at 70, 80 naira. The price is about 100 to 120 naira. See what I mean by a bond trade? You know that at redemption, you're going to get 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Get made at par. Buy the thing 20% cheaper now. Like, do you understand what I'm trying to say? It's like buying a bond. It's like buying a discounted treasury bill, right? If you don't have any cost of funds, because cost of funds means
it might erode.
Erode this capital. You don't have a 1 year cost of funds because you don't really have. If you have cash that you don't, basically what I'm trying to say, if you have cash that you don't need right now, and I've told you that, listen, there's a bond that's trading at 80 cents or 80 kobo, and at the end of the life of the bond, you're going to get 100 kobo. What will you do? You buy the bond now.
Yeah. So the difference is, I know the lifetime. I know the tenor.
So that's
what
I'm saying. So the cost of funds. So so that's the I guess the maturity.
Yes, exactly.
Because you don't know when
exactly this will happen. And I think
you know it will happen.
They got tired at some point because a lot of people went in. It's been around for a while. Like you know how you planning for December. Like this one. And then
I don't know if you got tired. I think they made too much money. Because you got in at 50, 60. This thing went up to 79 naira.
37.
You got in 37. This thing went up to 79.
She's telling you where she entered.
No, some people that I know.
So I'm saying, I've made money now. Let me come out. And you were in, I think they went back down to 66. And I was at 82. But 100 is where you're going to get made whole.
But you don't know when.
But you don't know when.
You said.
But you could model it using Guinness, right? How long did Guinness take? Guinness took 4 or 5 months-ish.
Yeah, but this is different. This has taken what, over a year? No,
Lafarge is December. Is it December?
No. Okay, maybe.
Maybe before some of us. So maybe
different entry point. See me begging people to sell to be at 80 naira now. Anyway.
Hey, so this is the stock you're trying to buy.
No.
Okay.
But for me, right? So sorry, going back to this, I guess some stocks that are maybe I guess not everyone in the audience or not everyone follows the market this closely, but it's, when I talk about the stock market side hustle, there's some stocks that you know how it ends, right? You don't know when it ends, but you know that
this is the trajectory.
This is the trajectory. Yeah. It's a 17 naira. I'm going to be made whole at 100, 120 naira. They've given me the price they're going to buy it from me. We're just waiting for some document, but it's going to happen because there's nothing stopping this thing from happening. For me, it's a no-brainer. But hey, what do I know?
I will give an example. Okay. When the whole Seplat stuff started, right?
Yes.
You could have taken a position and say, "Oh wow, Seplat is going to buy these for sure."
Yeah.
And then how long did it take?
It took longer than
exactly.
Yeah.
Seplat was going to be my second.
But for me, Seplat is a 10,000 naira stock though.
Yeah, people say that. Yeah,
it's 5,700 naira. I don't know.
I've seen some research reports and I'm like, oh wow.
Okay, you don't think it's a 10,000 naira stock?
And I mean, the reason I'm not sure if the 10,000 naira stock, but I don't know. But I know it's a good stock.
Yeah.
And I've seen some research reports that are very bullish with Seplat. Yeah, about Seplat. And the reasons are not far-fetched. They have bought, these assets, and there are quite a lot of things they can unlock real quick.
Yeah.
Right. And when they do that, obviously, it will add to the volumes. Now, the question is, do we have the capacity to take the volumes? I think the answer is yes for now. So I think
what did some call it? Evacuation, something infrastructure.
Evacuation, infrastructure integrity.
Evacuation, infrastructure integrity.
Okay, so they fixed that now.
So if that works, then we can see that. So I think I might go. Anyway, I'm not saying anything before it looks like I'm giving on the side. So before we go into buy, sell, hold, I wanted to quickly drop a story. This is concerning CBN fining Paystack 250 million naira over ZAP operations, citing licensing breach. So it says the CBN had fined Paystack, one of the country's most prominent fintech companies, $190,000. It's not plenty of money for
Paystack.
They will pay tomorrow. For allegedly operating its newly consumer product, ZAP, as a wallet in violation of the regulatory license, according to one person with direct knowledge. So basically, from the conversation, it seems that so Paystack responded saying Paystack is working closely with the regulator as they further review ZAP, and out of respect for the process, we won't be making any public comments. So one thing I must say is that there are a few companies, there are a few startups in Nigeria that I will stand up and put my chest forward for. Paystack is one of them. Fantastic as a payment gateway.
Yep.
Right? So if you're trying to build a financial product, and you do not have the infrastructure, you do not have the technical in-house knowledge, Paystack is the company you want to work with, right? Fantastic, fast, move. However, what it does seem like the story is saying is that their new product, ZAP, did not fall within the remit of what CBN gave them a license for, And then I saw somebody tweet something about saying something like, oh, I heard inside, my sources inside CBN said, it's because they did party and they didn't want to ask us. And
now, IMF cannot put this in the model, that.
Exactly. Oh, thank you. There you go.
No, but when it comes to licensing conversations, especially in Nigeria, I can imagine doing that with my own regulator.
Really?
Doing what? Sorry, I missed that. Imagine doing what?
Just launching a product without fully having all conversations.
Yeah.
In the days of, those boutique investment banks, they would just bring it out and say, okay, so how much are we going to make on this deal? What is SEC's fine? What is this person's fine?
And then they can figure it out.
I think we can. I'm not saying that's what they did, but I'm saying, you can look at the numbers and say,
I suspect a lot of people do that globally, right? It's
just look at it. We paid the fine. And
a friend of mine, I don't know if I should mention this, is an international bank in London. And he was sitting in an end of year speech for this very well-known group CEO of this very well-known big bank, top 2, top 3, top 4, top 5. And he said something similar because someone said, what do we do about the fines? He said, just pay it. Just pay it. We just develop another product out. So I think it's something people would
just put in the numbers. Just pay it at the end of the day,
pay it. Yeah, we'll be okay. So people still do. I didn't mention any banks.
Honestly, this is the underbelly of the financial industry.
Just pay it. You know,
and this reminds me of the LIBOR scandal back in the day. And when everybody was going crazy about it, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to fine." Was it JP Morgan? This
quite a few of them,
and
HSBC,
you know,
and
I heard they were going to fine them on Monday, and by Wednesday, JP Morgan had paid. I was like, come on.
How much did they make from LIBOR?
How much? In the scheme of things.
Do you understand? That's what I'm saying. Just pay it.
They didn't appeal. They didn't beg. They just paid it on Wednesday. Like, you know.
I said,
what are the details? What are the details?
I just jumped to who it was. I said it. I just said who it was. I said just pay it.
Just pay.
Like some things are not worth your time.
Yeah,
so,
just pay it. Oh gosh,
I'm not saying
we
we are not encouraging bad behavior here. We're saying follow your regulator when your regulator says do this.
Absolutely.
Please. but innovation in Nigeria is has come leaps and bounds, and I think that's probably one of the very few products I've seen in the last 12 months that comes out with the full Cook, Elon, Zuckerberg type unveiling that was like, those things with the big screen behind, and then the CEO is
the
in
jump,
t-shirt,
the black sweater,
black
jumper, turtleneck,
like we unveil
Elizabeth. What's her name? Tyrannus. Is it Tyrannus?
And it was no, not a Tyrannus. but it was a good unveiling, and it's now come full circle with this fine. I'm sure Paystack would bounce back from this. It's 190K.
But it's good to see the regulator at work, though. It's good, it's being understanding the regulators. The thing is, sometimes innovation and profits, in our chase for innovation and profit, and I don't believe I'm the one saying this, but in our pursuits for innovation and profits, we, you can hurt the consumer. Or not educate the consumer properly. So sometimes it's just good to know that the law works, and the law is on the consumer side. So I like he's smiling.
I'm just holding my thoughts.
You have a look at your face.
No, I'm not going to say anything.
So in line with the CBN, CBN, this CBN has kept within its remit.
Yes,
it's not doing rice. It's not planting tomatoes. It's kept within its remit. But one of the few things that it did when it came in was to tell everybody it regulated to do the same.
Yeah.
You are Arnold. Stay Arnold.
Don't regulate yourself.
Don't be Arnold that when I go outside, I am now Chibika or something like that. Be Arnold, right? And this directly comes to this fine because it's specifically told its payment service providers. We know they have the PTSP, the PSSP, the super agents.
Stay within your remit.
Stay within your remit. Don't do what other people do. And it did look like some point within the payment space that all you just needed was one license.
Yeah.
Do the rest. You can't do everything. Just navigate somehow.
Yeah.
But it looks like the CBN is saying we will not take those kind of things anymore.
I think the new CBN, and they're
I
very
like it. I like it. Like I said, I like
they mean business. They're very serious about regulations and enforcing them. So that's good.
It is good. It is good. I know
someone's going to say the CBN is paying us. So the way we all love it on the CBN.
Everybody's paying us.
King Cardoso himself.
No. But
I like what they are doing, though.
Likewise.
So you never know what you have until you lose it. I remember I used to be so very anti Ngozi.
Really?
Not because I didn't like her,
right?
But I was always, challenging the things she said. I was like, oh no, we could do it in a better way. I was a young analyst at the time. I was like, no, we could do this. And then subsequent people who have followed after, I'm like, oh my God, we miss you, Ngozi. If only I knew at the time that what we had was, special. I would have stuck with it. Because after her, it was, when the level of conversation was this high, and then you now had to start battling conversations here, you're like, where do I start from?
Like, how did we get here in the
How
first
did we
place?
get here? You know, it's terrible.
Yeah.
All right, so guys, we're going to do buy, sell, hold quickly. All right, so I'm going to start with Canada. Buy, sell, hold. The new president is eventually going to align with Trump. Buy, sell, hold.
Oh, wow. I'll
Align.
say hold. I don't know.
think
Was it
align-
fall in line?
Yeah.
Okay, I meant hold. I don't know.
I agree with
Yeah.
Arnold. It's hold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't think he's going to toe the line eventually when push comes to shove?
Hold. Though.
Man, you know, you have to look at what is at stake. So
So we have a lot of Canadian viewers. Please let us know. Buy, sell, hold on that.
What's your view?
I think he's going to align.
Okay, so you're buy. He aligns.
Yeah, he's going to align. But I also think Trump is going to pull in, because I do know he's saying a lot of stupid.
take that out.
My thoughts right here with me. I do know he's saying a lot of things that he shouldn't say, like third term in office, you know, Canada's the 51st state and things like that. He shouldn't be saying things like that. But I do not think he's so anti-Canada as he comes out to appear, you know, but when it's that clear, I think him and the Canadian president will find some middle ground and they'll be able to find something to work together on. All right, moving on. 100 days in office. Trump said, this is Trump's word. This is the best 100 days in office of any president ever. Buy, sell.
Yeah. So what am I buy, selling, or holding?
Is it true?
Of any? I don't know. I don't have
No,
to
but
answer that,
no. Okay, let's not look at it from best.
So I think the GDP number speaks for itself.
Back to the GDP numbers.
Yeah. What are the words again? I know you love this line. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. I know you're a hip hop guy, so you love it. You know that job that you loved it.
What do you think about his first 100 days in office? Was great, buy, sell, hold. Bad,
Sell.
sell. You don't like his first one?
I think you rattled too many things, but yeah.
IMF growth forecast. They're going to be right, buy, sell, hold.
Sell now. We all know that.
Wow. So nobody
I would
believes
say hold,
IMF anymore. Hold.
You didn't say anything about
you have empirical evidence that they always get it wrong. So you think they
for
might get it
Nigeria,
right.
so they might get it right for
globally,
Yeah,
okay.
globally.
Do
So.
they ever
That's
get
why I
it
said
right
hold.
globally?
You put a range now. They don't have a crystal ball. So
Hey, but why
I mean, they try though. In their
Yeah,
defense,
especially when it comes to global growth.
Yeah, they try.
There's this Nigerian
They try.
economist. I will not mention his
Please
name.
mention.
I was going to ask.
Please
but
mention.
I will not mention his name because, you know, I used to have spats in about 2014, 2015. I think I pointed it out at the time. He has this thing. We were clear as a he, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has this thing.
And there are not many of them, so go on.
Yeah. He has this thing where he says, so Nigeria is going to grow by 5%. Nigeria is going to grow by 5%.
That's it to the camera, to the mic.
Q3. And the thing is, he always realizes that by the time it's Q3, everybody has forgotten. And he's always wrong. Always.
Who is this person?
I'm not going to mention his
Please
name.
not ruin it.
Anyways,
I
let me
don't know,
move
but
on. So US GDP numbers, Q2 bounce back from negative numbers, buy, sell, hold.
So buy bounces back, sell it doesn't bounce back.
Yeah, hold.
Hold.
It probably stays.
I think we get in. I think we. You know what? I think we get a recession. We get a technical recession. Is two quarters,
immediately,
right?
immediately
we get it.
negative GDP is a
Next
recession.
then.
We get a technical recession. Yeah, we get a technical recession.
What do you think? Buy, sell, hold. So basically, what I'm asking you is, US goes into a recession next quarter.
Yeah, we get a technical recession.
It's possible.
Yes. So you're selling.
We get a technical
It's
recession.
possible.
So I'm buying that we get a recession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
US recession.
Yeah, we get a technical recession.
It's possible. Very highly likely.
Wow.
But they would bounce back. I think.
When?
Quickly.
Are we saying...
Yeah, but like,
What,
the
next
US is not
quarter?
Nigeria. When we get negative,
so
it's
we're not going to have
negative.
Yeah.
This guy's keeping -2, and then the third one is up again.
Because they wake up and smell the coffee and say, okay, you know what do we need to do to get back on track?
Yeah,
So we do get it technical.
Okay. So, buy, sell, hold Lafarge.
Oh, buy
That's
now.
easy now.
I know.
Wow.
If you're not buying Lafarge, what are you buying?
Very easy.
What do you
Buy,
buy?
sell, hold Seplat.
Yeah, I like
Buy.
Seplat.
Buy.
I
Okay.
like Seplat. Man, Seplat, you can buy Seplat London, Seplat Nigeria. You be fine. Yeah, you be fine.
Okay.
If you're not in Seplat, what are you in?
It's nice. It's nice. It's nice to be Seplat and Lafarge. It's nice. Finally, CBN is doing a great job with cleaning up the house in terms of just managing regulation within its purview. Buy, sell, hold.
Bye.
Yeah. I like to see. I still like what they're doing. The
We're
regulators
not asking
working.
about the fiscal side, but CBN, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Very supportive of this of the Central Bank of Nigeria.
I like it.
Yeah.
They paid you.
It's not enough for same more, I beg.
So no money has been exchanged here. But guys,
Hasn't it?
guys, want to thank you for joining us on Drinks and Bikes. We apologize for last week. I want to say
Why are you
again.
apologizing for taking a break?
No.
In life, man. Yeah,
People
I'm
harassed me. As in, I had all
Really?
sorts of even my neighbors. They're like, "What's
What
up?"
happened?
You know, because I'm going out on Saturday. It's like, "What's up?"
why are you going out when you have
He's
one?
almost telling me, "Go back inside and get me the link." So
Go back to the studio. Go record something.
So guys, thank you very much. We apologize for last week. We just took some time out.
Do you know what thing we didn't mention? Crypto.
Yeah.
It's down, by the way.
Is it down?
Yes.
Okay.
At least the last I saw.
No.
I thought,
It's gone back up?
No.
And I saw something that said
92 or so.
So
no?
Bitcoin is-
I saw
Bitcoin
something
is-
because the last time we talked
Depending
about
on which
Bitcoin.
day you're watching this,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Bitcoin is 94K.
So I saw something
I
that
saw
said
92.
120,000, 120K. I'm not sure anyone saw that research. Who even posted it? Okay, sorry.
So I do believe
think
that
it through
crypt-
properly.
And this is just quick segue. This is where I believe that the world has priced in Trump because the crypto market isn't as erratic as it used to be. They've kind of understood where he's going. So they're like, let him just keep doing this thing. So and they've moved up from 72. Remember when we were talking about 72?
100%.
We're now at 94. And
So what pulls it back down? Some more Trump tantrum?
Nothing is pulling it down because even GDP numbers did not pull it down.
Oh, no?
It didn't.
Yeah.
Really?
It didn't.
And it's still in the 90s. So.
Yeah, it's still 94. Depending on which day you're watching this, by the way. Anyways, so please, guys, we want to hear your thoughts. All the Canadians watching, please comment and put your comments in. Let us know how Canada is feeling right now, especially for new Canadians. Let us know what it is like, and also let us understand your thoughts about immigrations. We'd like to hear that. Also, the US GDP numbers. I'm sure you guys are probably giddy about that because it feels like it's a Canada-US war right now. But yeah, let us know what your thoughts are about it. Also, you know how we always do this. You know, this is Okwe's first time here, so please buy, sell, hold.
Buy.
Let us know.
I
Let us
enjoyed
know.
this. I thoroughly
She has
enjoyed
plenty
this.
money, so
Oh, yes, please, buy.
be guided with this
Please buy.
buy, sell, hold. Anyways, till next week again. Is Godric going to be?
I have no idea, man. That guy's sipping pina coladas.
He's
on the
in
beach
Miami.
somewhere.
I keep repeating, he's in
I'm
Miami.
just casting this guy.
You know?
He's trying to deny it. I don't understand.
I mean, we know for sure he's not in the country.
He's not in the country. He's
He's
in
not in the
Miami.
country.
And he's always sending us pictures of, him and
He might do.
all right, guys, have a great one. Cheers, sir.
Cheers.
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 Oh my God.